Welcome back to another album Yapcast. This week we are talking about the downfalls of music, where it started and where it is now. Let's get right into it. Carl, you had mentioned in our deliberations about this, you believe the downfall starts with boy bands.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. It's just kind of the belief that you can be pretty and sing, I guess, or that comes first. That like the second we started valuing looks over talent, and I'm not saying there weren't people in the past that were great show people that worked hard and learned to sing and were pretty and all this stuff, but not everyone can be that. And a lot of that started with like boy bands. They just kind of found people that were attractive, or I guess even back to like you could go even all the way back to like Milli Vanilli. You know, that's a really funny story about two guys that never had anything to do with the music, and they had two really good singers go in the studio and record all the stuff, and they just hired two male models to go out and pretend to be the singers live. Stuff like that's been going on a long time, but we've just kind of become more accustomed to it because now anyone can sing with the help of auto-tune or other studio tools. I don't know, auto-tune tends to get a bad rep. It's a cool tool, but just kind of the belief that pretty people can sing, I guess, is the is the thing. You know, I that seems like a vast oversimplification, but yes, it kind of starts with boy bands, and then we get to things like Glee, kind of destroying the little bit of I guess integrity that's left as far as like how a musician views music and what's feasible to do and all that stuff.
Yeah. I guess to piggyback off that, and to even take it like a step past, is just fads in music, I think, are a big thing that are very destructive because you see what could be blossoming people that'll just hop into a fad and then just rise up. The biggest fad I can think of in the past, or at least in recent times, I should say, is like a cappella music. It got huge because of Pitch Perfect. And some people started a career on it, and their career died with it too. You know, they never went anywhere else because they just latched onto this fad, and they came and went, but they were, you know, a killer musician. Some of those groups are still around. I really don't think there's hardly any other than Pentatonics and maybe one more, and I don't know the last time I ever heard anyone talk about Pentatonics.
A lot of that stuff's just a roll of the dice sometimes. I mean, so much in any sort of industry is luck, but in music especially, or I guess any sort of entertainment industry is luck. You know, you have to be in the right place at the right time and meet the right people, and a lot of people are spending the time networking to do all that stuff, but you still have to have all of the right things fall into place. But speaking of fads, you know, the one I immediately thought of when you said that was Lindsey Sterling. The whole thing where like electric violin was a thing for like 2 or 3 years, and then she's still making music from what I know, and I'm not saying any of it's bad. I don't think any of it's bad at all. She's actually quite talented, but it was just kind of there and then just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, I think that just kind of sticks to music as a whole. I mean, we've talked about it before, how little artists have true star power anymore. You know, you don't have a Queen, you don't have a David Bowie, you don't have a Led Zeppelin anymore. You have a Sabrina Carpenter, who everyone loved her last album and now hates this one because the picture's provocative, and we're so full 180 on everything, and yet, like, I guess Taylor Swift is truly the last star I think we'll have. I think she's a megastar and she has reached that, but I don't know that we'll have another person reach that and stay there as long as she did ever again.
Wasn't Taylor Swift's dad vice president of a record company?
That's the thing, yeah.
I mean, she made the whole city of Nashville so angry she wasn't allowed to essentially be there. I mean, they didn't kick her out, but anyone that actually was into country, and when she kind of made the switch, I mean, she also has the people that she doesn't like. Now, I'm always a vocal Taylor Swift fan because of the people she's fighting. You know, as long as she continues to fight Ticketmaster and do good things for the rest of the industry. I don't love that people are spending, you know, a month worth of income to go to her shows, but that's not her fault. So yeah, it's an interesting one because it's like you said. I was thinking about this the other day because we were talking about how there's just going to be this vacuum once all the bands are finally gone. Because I mean, think about it. How many reunion tours has Kiss done?
At least 10.
Someone was telling me the last Kiss tickets were like $500-$600 to go see a bunch of dudes that haven't really been able to play their instruments in 20 years.
I think the last Kiss tickets were like $800 for a virtual show. It was like was like holograms or something like that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's like I just don't understand how you can consciously. I mean, I do. Like, money is money, but it's this really weird thing that all of these people are soon going to disappear, and there's going to be a vacuum left behind it. That's what I was talking to someone about earlier, and I'm hoping we can get some good music to fill the void, and it doesn't just disappear. But a lot of these bands were on top for so long, and the whole model that they built their business on just disappeared. And it disappeared long before streaming, but it that's kind of the final nail in the coffin, was that, these, if you think about it, when was the last time a mega band went on a tour and toured for their whole lives like that?
Yeah, I don't even know. The other thing is, too, streaming is a big kind of pitfall, because it was a big deal to either go see the album performed live after it came out, or go buy the album, or do both. That was like a big thing. It's an intimate moment between a fan and the band to go see them on their tour for that record. And you can still do that now, but I didn't have to wait in any lines for any of that. I had your album at midnight for free. It's just, it takes away some of the charm of me feeling like I'm a part of your career. I know ultimately it comes back to the fans pay for and make their careers, but I think also just a lot of the mentalities that I've seen change. It just makes me feel like I want to be distanced from that, and not really giving them money and having to really pick and decide when to give them money has put that distance as well. Like, a t-shirt being $40 is a little outrageous. Or a hoodie for $80 or $120. I mean, I have a couple Polyphia hoodies, and I won't lie to you, they were not cheap, and it hurt to pull the trigger, but it's all exclusives, and that's how they get you.
And then the 800 variants of the vinyl.
Yeah, that too is. There's nothing that makes me want to go spend a bunch of my money to your corporate slum. And that's another big thing. A lot of bands are companies now, which good for you, but also it really sucks for me because you're charging a lot of money because you need to make money.
Well, I mean, bands have always been companies, but the thing is, with the streaming and the way the streaming works, and the fact that they're making hundredths of a penny on the dollar of what they used to per listen, it's kind of created this situation where, since they used to live off publishing, they used to live off songwriting, that still exists, but it's nowhere near what it is unless you have a serious songwriting catalog. And even then, most of those songwriting catalogs are owned by private people. The bands sell the rights, and they're owned by someone else. And those people are making the profits off the whatever. So, all of those other income streams just kind of became invalid as time moved on, and that goes back to something we've talked about before. The music industry is always 10 or 15 years behind every other industry. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting. We started this with the downfall of music, and here we are. But for me, it's just the downplay of talent for perception, or really just, and that could be anything. It could be songwriting talent. It could be this or that. You don't have to be a virtuoso musician to put on a good show, and I get that. But if you expect me to go to see someone's show just because they're good looking and they have a good following online, and they're not really putting on a good show, that's rough. And there's a lot of artists that fall into that category. I'm not going to name any names, but everyone can think of someone. Everyone can think of a situation. The other day, I was listening to something and was reminded of the time a group of fans sued Creed for putting on a terrible show in Chicago, and that pretty much ended their career. But there's a lot of funny instances of stuff like that where you're like, I paid a ton of money to be here, and you just went on stage to act pretty. And I think that's part of back to the whole thing where I don't like tracks, or I don't like this and I don't like that, is it further removes any sort of real music and puts it further into a act. And that's fine. You're going to see a show. There's always going to be some sort of theater. There's always going to be, that's always part of it. That's always part of the art. But
I was talking to Dylan, and he was talking about how he never wants to go to like any kind of rap concert, and that was his reasoning, is because they're not even like playing it. They're not even singing half the time or doing the performance half the time. They're just holding the mic out to the crowd.
And it does depend on the artist too, because I know there's, I won't speak like I know much about the rap genre, but I know for a long time a lot of those people would make music in the studio and then go out and they would hire the best musicians possible and would replace all the samples and all the drum machine tracks and all this stuff with just the best musicians you can imagine, and would put on fantastic shows doing that. So, that's another one of those, like, yes, a lot of people do that, but that's not the rule.
I'd love to see a show like that. That'd be sick.
The one that always comes to mind is Jay-Z. I don't know a whole lot about his music or any of that stuff, but the kind of people he'd have on tour with him is just insane. And that may be something that kind of went to the wayside in the last few years, but that's kind of the way it used to be done.
I'm going to call them the like TikTok artists, to where their whole thing was to promote this one song, and now they have to go on tour with a whole bunch of other songs and that one. And that's the reason people are going, is because they know you off of one song.
Well, and we talked about this not too long ago. There's a big thing that's going on right now where people are getting kind of uncovered for not actually doing the things that it looks like they're doing on TikTok. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people masquerading as having talent, and it turns out they won't even take the time to use the tools to fake it correctly.
Are you talking about there's a handful of people that like would do covers in their kitchen, and they had these like beautiful layered vocals with like 3 of them standing there, and there's no mic in sight, so it's clearly they recorded in the studio.
Well,
There's a difference between recording in your studio and then mimicking it, because there is no shot that you're gonna sound like get a good sound out of my guitar through my phone. But there's a big difference between recording something and not knowing how to play, or finding a recording of something and then miming how to play it without having been able to play it, or you having been the original like recorder of it, or taking a recording, speeding it up. That's a big thing that a lot of people do. There was a guy that is it Rick Beato, one of those guys, was gonna have on his YouTube show, and he was so bad that he didn't even like edit the episode. He's like, he just wasn't good enough to be on my channel.
Yeah, there's been guys caught for a lot of speeding up. There's a lot of people that are blatantly ripping off other people's tracks, which is hilarious, because what's happening is like people are looking at it and going, no, that's impossible. There's no way that you're doing that. That's impossible. And all they could have done is if they sped it up by 10%, people would have been like, wow, you're really good. But the problem is they're putting in zero effort at all. Okay, I'll say 0 to a mild amount of effort, and then they're speeding it up by 200%. Or these guys are just going and stealing someone's entire live recording and then mimicking over it and pretending it's their own, and not linking it. And like the problem is that the AI software is picking up the other artist's song and is tagging them in the video some of these times.
Oh, it's really funny. One of our Song of the Days got caught doing that. It was in no way on purpose, but it was one of Steven's. He like picked up the bass and started playing the song, and because of the way the Song of the Day is, where the song like lifts up at the end when it transitions, it thought that we were passing that off as he's playing the recording.
That's
funny. Had to take that video down.
And it's, for as many tools that are out there to catch it and kind of stop that sort of fraud, it just comes back. I don't know. I guess the moral of the story today is like, don't be gullible. Like,
you really do. I mean, that's just the general consensus of anything on the internet, is, especially with AI, everything out there you really have to double check. You should always check and think. But also, if you see something that you think is impossible, don't instantly think it's not possible. Like, challenge it, and think about it, because sometimes people do get like a crazy clip. The amount of times I've done some random sweeping solo, I can't sweep pick, and like sometimes you just get the lick. I can't do it again. I would never record it and post a video acting like I could, but people do. So sometimes it's not always impossible. It's just they got really lucky. But you can usually tell that their handles shake a little because they get excited.
Well, I mean, you can tell who are real musicians and who kind of put in the work and who didn't put in the work. You know what I'm saying? It's like you 100% could boost yourself another 10 to 15% above what is in your talent, and no one would be able to tell the difference. No one's going to be able to tell the difference. The problem are people that have little to no talent at all, who are getting by like they're rock stars. People that are just mimicking along with other things, or doing this and doing that, and just because they're pretty, or unfortunately with TikTok are slightly undressed women, they're getting a lot of views based on that, while the original artists are getting nothing. So it's kind of an interesting problem.
I'd say TikTok, the big thing that upsets me on there is truly that, like, let's talk about the thirst traps. The amount of times I will just see a beautiful girl playing a guitar, clearly not actually playing it, and she'll just like blow up. Her account will have like 5 million followers, and it's like, okay, how many times are you gonna play Do I Want to Know in your kitchen in like a tiny top, and people are gonna keep liking it? It's just, I don't even know that gullible is the right word. It's just hive mind of horny.
I liked your thirst earlier. That's a good way to put it, because for a while before the AI stuff caught up, and before it was easy to edit this stuff, there were a few artists that you would see playing, and it's like, wow, they're pretty good, and then you're like, wait, why is she wearing a bikini top? Like I get it, like do whatever you want to know. Sure, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not trying to shame you for being naked on the internet, whatever. But it is just, when you see that, you got to immediately go, okay, why are people watching this video? What's enticing people to watch this video? And that's what made me like that wave. You said it's a thirst trap, and I kind of like that.
As someone who, I hate gimmicks usually. Like, the gimmick things I think are stupid unless you can prove yourself as a musician. I am an avid Steel Panther fan. I was very on edge about how they were until I saw them live and was like, no, they can actually play. They're really good. That's why they're doing the joke. So when I see someone doing something like that, my first thought is, oh, you're actually really bad at what you're doing. You just want attention for it. Anyone using music for attention instantly upsets me, because it's what I love. It's what my life is. It's what my livelihood is. So when you're using that to just get views and attention and validation, that's going to upset me. The way that if I were to go and put on a flannel and start chopping down wood with my shirt unbuttoned, it would upset a lumberjack. Because I'm clearly being a poser. I'm stepping on grounds that I shouldn't be on. And it's not cool, because it gives everyone else a bad rap.
And I get really triggered by it personally, just because I know I have been passed on for gigs, because, I mean, I'll admit, I'm not like, I couldn't be in a boy band. I'm not some gorgeous personality or whatever. There's plenty of times that the gig has not needed a considerable amount of talent. I get passed on because someone prettier got the spot, and that's show business. That is what it is. But I think that makes it hit a little harder when I see these people that they're not even doing the minimum of what the gig needed. If that person met the minimum, that's fine. But a lot of these people aren't even. They aren't even getting to what I would consider the minimum entry point of even knowing how to hold their instruments sometimes, and they're learning to fake this stuff, learning to mime this stuff, and I get it. It's there's people that'll argue it's acting, it's this and it's that, and that's fine. You can get famous as an actor. There's something about it being disingenuous, and not that I'm taking this from the people that use it in a military term, but it's almost like the stolen valor thing. That's almost exactly how it feels. I'm not comparing anything with being a musician to being in the military, but it's that you didn't work to get where you are going.
Yeah, where you're at.
Or where you're at. Yeah, you didn't work anything to get where you're at. You just showed up and decided you were. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing.
Because it's one thing to be attractive and use it to your advantage with skill. I mean,
that's just good marketing.
I was going to say, go look at all the dudes in the 80s. They were skinny white boys with big hair, and they dolled themselves up like girls because it's what was happening, and it worked for them. It boosted their stardom, but they could back it. The only person I argue that against is David Lee Roth. He was like not the most attractive dude in the world. He knew it. He just put on such a good show that everyone wanted to be him, and that's cool. But then you see, these modern era people that go play a riff on TikTok in a piece of lingerie. It's like, wow. What are you doing?
And unlike the 80s, they're not just skinny because they're on boatloads of drugs. I mean, it's a different thing. But yeah, I think that might actually be like that might be the theme that we're trying to explain, is like it's a combination of thirst-driven stolen valor.
Pretty much
is the thing that like absolutely it just like I don't know, it just makes me like verbal with
someone
rage.
Who spent the last decade of my life honing in my skill and my craft, for someone to come and get way huge of a platform playing stuff that I learned 9 years ago because they've got boobs out. I even get mad at the dudes that are showing their six-pack doing that, because it's like, if you were a good guitar player, you would not need that.
Do you know what you just described? You just described the beginning of the movie School of Rock. When he gets fired from the band,
yeah.
and then he goes back and sees them, and the guy's wearing the unbuttoned leather and with the six-pack, and that's actually a stab at Dave Navarro. That's what that's a stab at. The guy was supposed to look like Dave Navarro, but
that is exactly what that is. And I relate to that. Because I hold myself in a decent regard. I don't have the world's biggest ego, but if someone were to walk in and call me a bad guitar player, I'm going to fight and prove them wrong. It's just, if someone like that were to walk in and tell me I was a bad guitar player, I just think I'd punch them.
If somebody walked in right now, I'd hope somebody would punch them.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody's supposed to be here right now.
It's very fair. Yeah, we, in our undisclosed location, are very safe here. I mean, you pretty much nailed it. You know, I think I'm a little more understanding just because of the different situations I've been in and done different things that are almost more like a stage act. You know, and it's so funny. We talk all the time about kind of how I look and act and dress, and a lot of that is part of the persona that I am a musician. You know, like needing a haircut is like the thing that lets people know, oh, he's probably a good musician when they meet me and I tell them I play. It's such a weird, funny thing. But like, if I ever get my haircut short, people don't think I'm good at drums anymore. It's just kind of funny how some of those stereotypes work and play for and against you.
Oh, I completely get it. The band I play in is playing music that is at least 4 decades older than I am. So it's just the people will look at me and judge me and they're like, I can't play it. And you just start wailing on it. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh. We are very judgy in music. That's how it is. People are very judgmental. You do judge a book by its cover. I just hate for that cover to be smut. If the cover I'm looking at is 50 Shades of Grey, that is what I'm assuming it's going to be.
So now we could move on. Instead of thirst, what about brain rot driving music?
That's even worse. I think all these songs that are meant to have that, 30-second, 45-second clip for TikTok, and then the rest of the song is just junk, sucks. Yeah. Or these songs that are built around a really good chorus and the rest of it sucks. Like Apata by Bruno Mars is great song. It's got the core of a bunch of other songs. It's got a really good chorus, but the whole rest of it is junk. Toss it out the window.
So let's go through and talk about some brain rot songs in history that hit the charts, because I think it's going to go way further back than you think. Because like obviously,
bring up like One-Eyed, One-Horned Flying Purple People Eater. That's
right,
some brain rot, right?
Right. You know, or like think like Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, or like, I mean, Freak Party Rock Anthem. You know, you start thinking about all these songs that are like popular for a summer, and then everybody's like, please stop playing this.
The thing I think about those is a lot of those are club. Like,
yeah.
Tub Thumping was a club song at the time. Maybe not like a discotheque, but it would have been a clubbing song the same way that Party Rock Anthem was. So typically club music is brain rot music.
So yeah, you heard it here first. A rave is brain rot.
Exactly. But now it is escaping into the general masses. Chicken Jockey was like number 12 in the top 100 on Spotify for a week or something. That's insane. It's a 30-second song.
I mean, it was my song of the day.
Oh my god, it goes into all forms of media. I think brain rot has truly infected everything. Long form content is very hard to ingest for a lot of people, and I even find the same problem myself. Whereas, like, if I don't have something to do, I want to be like scrolling through something just so that there's constant movement. But I can find it very easy to go sit through a 3-hour movie about cars. So
yeah, but that was a good movie.
That was a good movie. Yeah, it is very hard to go sit through a 2.5-hour boring movie, which I also just did recently and don't remember the 2.5-hour long boring movie.
Well, if I have to sit through another 2.5-hour boring reboot of something that wasn't good the first time, I don't know. Me and movies are a different conversation. But, I don't know. I was trying to think of other things, going back, but I think like that brain rot thing is just kind of always driven what is and isn't popular in music. It's just we're seeing it get.
It's at an all-time high.
Well, it's getting like dumber. And that sounds mean, but it's true.
I think our vocabulary as a unanimous group has taken a step back. Like, even when I was a kid, I feel like adults spoke to me a different way than I see adults speaking to kids now. And it's just like wild. As we were all younger, we were taught about the manners and all that when we were yay big. But I have had to teach kids to say like please and thank you at the age of 8, and I'm like, oh, you're welcome, and they're like, what? That's insane to me. So I think just kind of the generalization of everyone pulling back. I think COVID was a big problem too. That ruined it for a lot of people. Just kind of regressed everybody into being in online mode. So we talk like we're chronically online, and thus all the music is made for that consumption.
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me feel old because, like, I don't know if I'm old, and I just think that, like, I don't know if I'm old and I think slang is stupid, or if it is stupid. I know it's a combination.
Some of the stuff when we were young was very stupid. Looking back, like YOLO and swag were dumb. But also, some of the stuff I hear, the skibbity toilet, what?
Right, I mean, it was like cowabunga and eat my shorts. I'm just kidding. That's 10 years before me. But, when you think back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and you think to, like, Bart Simpson and, I mean, even all the way back to, like, early surf culture. Mm-hmm. A lot of those people were kind of seen as dumb, and I don't know. I still say like every other word sometimes. It's just become a part of my vocabulary. But I just can't help but think things are just getting progressively dumber sometimes, and people are progressively more just taking things at face value, without having any sort of concern for whether or not it could be true. And people are just becoming more gullible, while at the same time things are getting dumber.
We're reaching a very scary stage of that. Yeah. Everyone's consumption of everything is really at face value. It's everything marketing-wise. You have to be upfront and hide everything scary. And it's what everyone does. I mean, that's why we find skeletons in everyone's closets. Next episode, let's talk about those skeletons.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with that. I think it's just a combination of oversimplification, but it's a combination of being gullible and, like, letting things get dumbed down. And I get this stuff's funny, and I understand that, but, like, we need to remember that in its truest form, music is art, and to sometimes expect some art in one way, shape, or form, and to, like, reward people for the effort sometimes. Instead of just
always rewarding for the effort.
Instead of just rewarding for what is an instant gratification. There it is. We tend to see the instant gratification instead of the thing that's truly an art, or is truly a work of passion, or, vice versa. And I'm not sitting here saying that anyone that spent time doing something is automatically good. I'm just saying a lot of what is killing all forms of media is people who are not spending any time doing anything, and assuming that they deserved to do this, and taking that valor they didn't earn and creating garbage, essentially. And then the problem is they then clog up the ways for people who actually are taking time and talent to move up.
Thank you for watching this album Yapcast. If you have any suggestions for something you want to hear us yap about, leave it down in the comments.
If you've listened this far, seriously, I'd love to have, like, a list of what people think is, like, older brain rot music. I think that's a hilarious topic So if anyone watches this far and leaves us a comment, I think that's cool. I'll read all of them. So.